If you hold an apple out your window right now and let go, it falls.
Right. Inevitably.
Yeah, it absolutely does not matter what language you speak, or, what you happen to believe, or even how you're feeling that day. Gravity simply is.
It just works.
Exactly. Welcome to today's deep dive. Our mission today is to unpack a genuinely paradigm-shifting stack of notes from the translated book Secret of Enlightenment.
Also known as Anamignana Rahashyam by Sri Bhagavat.
Right. And our goal here is to kind of shortcut the incredibly dense philosophy of this text and hand you, the listener, some practical structural insights.
Yeah. Insights into the actual nature of your own mind.
Exactly. And the root of the stress you carry around all day, plus, the illusion of time.
Which is a huge one. It is a really rigorous text to navigate. I mean, what stands out is that while religious traditions diverge wildly on the surface,
Like debating stories and rituals and all those rules.
exactly, this text bypasses all of that completely to explore what we can call a second domain of spirituality.
And this domain functions almost mechanically, right? Like that law of gravity you just mentioned.
Right? It asks for zero blind faith from you. It essentially just demands that you rigorously observe the moment to moment mechanics of your own perception.
B. Breaking down those mechanics requires us to kind of bend our usual logic, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
The author points out that moving deeper into the mind often feels completely backward compared to how we navigate the physical world.
Yeah. He uses this really striking image for it.
Oh, the pond. I love this. So imagine a pond with a massive jewel resting on the bottom.
Right.
You walk down the stone steps into the water. The water hits your waist, then your chest. You take a breath to step down again, but
But physics kicks in.
exactly. You start to flight. Your legs, which worked perfectly on the stairs, are suddenly completely useless.
Right. To reach the jewel, you have to completely reverse your orientation. You have to turn upside down and actively swim downwards.
Which feels so unnatural. The tools that got you into the water are the exact tools preventing you from reaching the bottom.
Yes. The logic of the surface creates a barrier.
And the author sets up that surface level barrier as this conflict between two forces within us, the doctrine of soul and the doctrine of Maya.
Let's define those, because they do get thrown around a lot in spiritual texts.
Yeah, please.
So, here the doctrine of soul just means your raw, direct sensory experience.
Just what you're physically feeling.
Exactly. Meanwhile, the doctrine of Maya encompasses all your thoughts, your opinions, your internal commentary, and, your imagination.
And those two layers are so interwoven in human consciousness that the Maya,
That commentary.
right, the commentary, it completely overrides the raw experience. The text offers such a vivid way to visualize this.
The fire on the shore.
Yes. Imagine a large fire burning on the muddy shore of a completely still pond. When you look at the reflection in the water, it appears as though the water itself is engulfed in flames.
Right. It looks violent and totally dangerous.
But if you were to step into the pond, the water is cool. You won't burn. The fire is entirely a reflection.
It's just a projection.
Okay, let's unpack this, 'cause it sounds a bit abstract.
Sure.
If Maya is just our thoughts and opinions acting like a reflection, I think about how that plays out for you, the listener, right now.
Yeah.
Say you get a vague, one-sentence email from your boss.
Oh, that's a great example.
Right. Suddenly, your heart rate spikes, your palms sweat, and you are gripped by the pure fear of being fired.
But the physical email is just pixels on a screen.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That is the cool water. But your mind projects an entire terrifying future onto it. That adrenaline spike is you reacting to the fire reflected in the pond.
and that is precisely the mechanism Bhagavat is targeting here. According to the text, we have to realize that literally everything we interact with in the external world is constructed through that exact mechanism.
Everything.
Everything. The world you walk through is entirely a combination of limited sensory perception merged with your internal opinions.
That feels like a massive claim, because we tend to assume we are experiencing an objective, concrete reality out there, you know?
We do, but let's explain the mechanics of how the text then dismantles that. It starts by examining the severe biological limitations of our physical senses.
Okay,
Our sensory organs do not actually capture reality, they only register highly specific narrow bands of disturbance.
like the bird example from the text.
Right, the cuckoo bird singing in a tree. You assume you are experiencing the bird itself.
But you're not.
No. In reality, you are experiencing light at a specific wavelength, disturbing the rods and cones in your retina, and sound waves creating physical pressure on your eardrum.
So the bird is just an origin point for a physical disturbance. My brain is the actual thing rendering the image and the audio.
Exactly.
It's like when you wear a VR headset. The digital cloud you are standing on isn't real, but your brain processes the visual disturbance and creates a genuine biological sensation of vertigo.
That is a brilliant way to frame it. Inside the tiny surface area of your retina is housed your entire visual universe. Yeah, if your eyes lack the receptors for those specific light wavelengths, that part of the physical world would literally just not exist for you.
And the text illustrates how fragile this sensory rendering is by looking at the Doppler effect, right?
Yes, you see a train approaching from a distance. The physical sound waves are stretched out, so your eardrum interprets the engine's hum as a soothing, almost musical tone.
But then seconds later, as the train rushes past, the physical source hasn't changed at all.
Right? But the compressed sound waves hit your ear and suddenly create an unbearable, deafening roar.
And the book pushes that even further with the story of the deaf man, illustrating how easily our brains misinterpret those disturbances.
Oh, the deaf man's story is heartbreaking, but so insightful.
Yeah. So a deaf man is lying in his house, and he suddenly experiences what he thinks is a loud knock on his wooden door. He is overjoyed, convinced his hearing has miraculously returned.
He runs to open the door, fully expecting a visitor.
Instead, he sees that lightning has just struck a tree in his yard.
Because the massive displacement of air from the lightning strike created a shock wave.
Right.
His limited sensory perception felt that physical disturbance and interpreted it through his memory bank as a knock. The physical event and his internal experience of it were completely mismatched.
And the distortion gets exponentially worse when we layer our psychological opinions over those limited physical disturbances.
Definitely.
There's a fantastic story in the text about three men in a park at sunset.
Oh, yeah, man. A, man B, and the stranger.
Exactly. So man A is waiting for his friend. He looks through the hazy dusk lighting and sees a figure approaching. Because his brain is primed with the expectation of his friend, he imposes that opinion onto the sensory data.
He experiences a genuine wave of relief and happiness.
Right. But man B is standing nearby, and he holds deep superstitious beliefs about the supernatural. He looks at the exact same physical figure,
Same light waves.
same light waves, but his brain imposes fear and supernatural opinions onto the data. He genuinely experiences seeing a ghost floating toward him.
And then the figure steps into the clear light, and the sensory data updates for both of them.
And it is merely a stranger passing through.
Right? It was never a friend, and it was never a ghost.
But the biological experience of relief for man A and the terror for man B were entirely real to them in that moment.
What's fascinating here is the implication of that mechanism. You give physical shape to objects using your narrow sensory bandwidth, but you give the meaning entirely from your internal memory bank.
So it's all coming from inside.
Therefore, you literally are your world. There is no external world foreign to you.
Wait, really?
Yeah, when you look at a childhood home, you are receiving light photons on your retina and merging them with decades of psychological conditioning. The world you inhabit is a custom built environment constructed entirely inside your nervous system.
So every single object you encounter is just a blank screen that you are projecting your personal movie onto?
Exactly.
Okay, but if the entire external world is just a combination of my sensory data and my opinions, what about the internal world? Like, who is the I sitting in the theater watching this movie?
Well, to answer that, the text forces us to swim even further downward.
Here we go.
It introduces the radical proposition that the I itself is a structural illusion generated by the intellect.
Okay, I'm gonna need you to break that down.
Yeah,
How can the I be an illusion if I am the one currently trying to understand this concept?
think about the core function of the human intellect. Its job is to categorize and label reality so an organism can survive.
Okay, makes sense.
The intellect points at a massive collection of wood, leaves, and sap and labels it a tree. It labels another human, mother. It creates boundaries where none exist physically.
Just putting things in boxes.
Right. And eventually, after obsessively labeling the external environment, the intellect turns its labeling mechanism inward.
Oh,
It observes the collection of memories, thoughts, and physical sensations occurring in the body, and it assigns a label to that system too. It names it I.
the author makes a brilliant point that this label of I is always indirect. Like, it only exists in relation to something else.
Yeah, the test score analogy.
Right. The text uses the analogy of getting a test back with a score of 90. The number 90 means absolutely nothing on its own.
Nothing at all.
It only has meaning because there is an invisible implied out of 100 attached to it. The 100 provides the necessary background for the 90 to exist.
Exactly. When you identify an object as mine, you are simultaneously, implicitly creating the concept of an owner.
Oh wow.
When you categorize someone as an enemy, you implicitly generate a victim identity for yourself.
So they always come in pairs.
Right. The text compares the eye to a shadow on the ground. A tree casts a shadow, and the shadow looks up at the massive trunk and genuinely believes it is the thing bearing the weight of the branches.
That is wild. Let's try a more modern angle on that. It feels like the eye is the mouse cursor on a computer screen.
Oh, that's good.
Like, the cursor moves around, clicks on folders, and seems to be the agent doing all the actual work, but the cursor is just a graphical illusion.
The real work is hidden.
Yeah, the actual work is being done by millions of invisible background processes in the CPU. The thought is happening, the feeling is happening, but the independent eye generating them is just a mental graphic.
And if the I is just an illusion caused by thoughts, we have to examine the nature of thoughts themselves. The text argues that your thoughts are entirely constructed out of time.
Meaning what, exactly?
They only exist in the past or the future, never the present.
Because the past is just data storage. It has already died. The brain is just accessing an archive.
Exactly. And the future is simply a mathematical estimation based on that archive. You expect gravity to work tomorrow because your memory bank tells you it worked yesterday.
Right.
So, if your intellect operates exclusively by referencing dead memories to calculate imaginary futures, it is entirely divorced from reality.
The only thing that is genuinely real is the pure, immediate sensory input, the feeling of a cool breeze hitting your skin. You do not have to calculate the breeze, it just happens.
Yet, human beings rarely just feel the breeze. The sensory data hits the skin, and instantly the intellect drags the past into the present.
We feel the wind and think, oh, this reminds me of that vacation 5 years ago. I wish I was still there.
Yes, we instantly overlay a memory on top of reality.
And once you notice that you are constantly overlaying memories onto reality, the immediate instinct is to try and fix it. You tell yourself, okay, stop thinking about the past, just be present.
Which is a trap.
Right. The text uses a very funny parable about monkey medicine to show exactly why forcing yourself to be present is a mechanical impossibility.
The king and the doctor.
Yeah. A king desperately wants to remain youthful, so he acquires a magical anti-aging medicine from a native doctor, but the doctor gives him one condition.
The medicine will only work if the king completely avoids thinking about monkeys while taking it.
A seemingly simple task for a king who has no interest in monkeys.
Right? But the moment he tries to take the medicine, his brain has to actively check if he is thinking about monkeys.
And to verify that he isn't thinking about a monkey, the brain has to load the concept of monkey into his working memory.
He is flooded with images of monkeys. He fails completely.
The deep spiritual mechanic hidden in that joke is about the trap of effort. The king cannot take the medicine precisely because of the effort he is exerting.
Let's really look at the mechanics of that effort. When you try to stop thinking, the intellect basically splits itself into two pieces.
Like a civil war.
Yes, one piece of the intellect becomes the police officer trying to suppress the thought, and the other piece becomes the rebel generating the thought.
And the friction between those two pieces creates massive amounts of mental noise.
Exactly. The very act of trying to destroy the I requires an I to do the destroying. You are trying to put out a fire by throwing gasoline on it.
So, if effort is a trap, how are we supposed to navigate the world without Maya hijacking our reality? I mean, how do we actually do this?
Well, Sri Bhagavan breaks human perception down into an operational framework called the three visions.
Okay, let's go through them. Vision 1 is the sensory vision.
Right.
This is the pure, mirror-like function of your biology. Your retina captures the color and shape of a flower. There's no judgment, just objective data collection.
And immediately following that is vision 2, the mental vision. Your brain takes the raw data from vision 1, scans the memory bank, and assigns it a functional label. It says, that is a rose.
So both of those visions are totally neutral. They don't cause any suffering.
Not at all.
The system breaks down entirely at vision 3, the discriminatory vision.
This is where the intellect attaches likes, dislikes, and psychological possessiveness to the labeled object.
The text illustrates this beautifully with the analogy of the gold and the brick.
This is a great one.
Right. Imagine you are walking down a path and you accidentally kick a brick. Your toe throbs. Vision 3 instantly assigns a negative emotional value. You become furious at the universe, cursing whoever left the brick there.
Now, imagine walking down the exact same path and your foot kicks a solid gold ingot. You still stub your toe.
Hard.
Yeah. The physical nociception, the pain signal traveling from your foot to your brain in vision 1 is identical.
But your reaction is entirely different. The moment you realize it's gold, you completely forget the physical pain.
Because your brain projects an imaginary future of wealth.
Right. flooding your system with dopamine that overrides the pain signals.
Hmm,
You become euphoric. Then, seconds later, Vision 3 shifts gears and you become terrified that someone will steal it from you.
exactly. The physical reality of the stub toe was the same in both scenarios, but Vision 3 generated wildly different, exhausting, emotional extremes, based entirely on psychological desire.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the text explicitly defines this third vision as ignorance.
It operates like a tyrant, masking the objective peace of the first and second visions. It's constantly throwing you between anger over the bricks and anxiety over protecting the gold.
Hold on, let me play devil's advocate for a second.
Go for it!
If Vision 3 is the source of all suffering, and the goal is to stop operating from it, how do you actually live? Like, don't you need preferences to survive?
That is the most common pitfall when confronting these concepts.
Right. Because if I don't have discriminatory vision, how do I pay my taxes, protect my family, or avoid walking into traffic? Doesn't getting rid of Vision 3 just turn you into a passive vegetable?
Not at all. The text clarifies that there is a vast difference between biological necessity and psychological possessiveness.
Okay,
You pull your hand away from a hot stove because Vision 1 and 2 provide the objective data that tissue damage is occurring.
you don't have to think about it.
Exactly. You don't need the psychological narrative of Vision 3, the anger at the stove, the self pity about your burned hand to survive.
Oh, I see.
Vision 3 isn't protecting you, it's just adding useless suffering to the necessary actions of life.
So, if we know Vision 3 is causing the suffering, but we also know from the monkey medicine that we can't use effort to fight it, what is the actual mechanism for getting unstuck?
The author provides a brilliant spatial analogy here involving a river.
Yes. Think of a shallow river with stepping stones where thousands of travelers bathe every day. The water gets filled with dirt, oil, and mud.
But if you visit that exact spot the next morning, is the river dirty?
No. The water is constantly flowing. The perpetual movement of the river effortlessly washes the dirt away, constantly renewing the system.
Bhagavan applies this river mechanic directly to our sensor perception. Your Vision 1, the raw data hitting your eyes and ears, is not static. It is a continuous waterfall, renewing every millisecond.
But the problem is that we reach into that flowing river, grab a handful of muddy water, like a specific thought or opinion from Vision 3, and we squeeze it tightly, trying to hold on to it.
We completely freeze the flow.
The text suggests a totally different approach. It uses the imagery of a fire and its smoke. Vision 1, the sensory reality, is the fire. Vision 3, the opinions and anxieties, is the smoke.
And when the smoke rises, you don't wave your arms frantically trying to destroy it.
That just creates more turbulence. You simply leave the smoke alone and anchor your attention in the fire.
The text introduces a fascinating biological mechanism for doing this, referring to the sixth sense.
Which is what? Exactly.
It suggests that just as the retina is an organ designed to receive light, the human core, often localized as a feeling in the chest or heart, is a sensory organ designed to receive emotions.
So when a wave of anxiety hits you, you don't fight the narrative.
Exactly. You just shift your attention to the pure physical sensation of the anxiety in your chest. You treat the emotion as raw Vision 1 sensory data and you just let it flow down the river.
So what does this all mean? You stop treating your emotions as profound truths about your identity and start treating them like weather patterns passing through the body.
Yes,
But where does this constant state of letting go actually lead? What happens to the mind when it stops grasping at the gold and kicking the bricks?
the text points to a state called my pole.
Let's thoroughly unpack that because it sounds like the final destination of this entire process.
My pole translates to the absolute reality or the core truth. When the intellect finally exhausts itself when it realizes that every attempt to fix the mind just creates more mind, it gives up.
The effort just collapses.
And when that psychological friction stops, you plunge into the underlying state. It is described as profoundly inert and unchanging.
It's the blank white screen behind the movie. It's the cool water beneath the reflected fire.
Exactly.
It's a state of deep, subtle peace where the frantic labeling mechanism of the intellect shuts down. And without the intellect constantly drawing a boundary between inside and outside, the illusion of the independent I just dissolves.
There is no isolated self suffering against a hostile universe.
There is just a continuous flow of sensory reality unfolding perfectly on its own.
The exhaustion of maintaining the I vanishes entirely, replaced by a singular, omnipresent sense of existing.
Wow. Let's zoom out and map the territory we just covered. We started by realizing we had to swim downwards, that applying our normal surface level effort to the mind is exactly what keeps us trapped.
Right. We discovered that the stressful world we constantly battle is actually just Maya.
A personalized movie projected from our own memory banks onto limited sensory data.
We dismantled the I, seeing it not as a driver of the vehicle, but as a structural illusion created by an intellect obsessed with labeling.
We recognize that our exhaustion comes entirely from the third vision, our compulsive need to attach psychological possessiveness and extreme emotional values to neutral objects.
Right.
And finally, we saw that the exit door isn't fighting the mind. The exit door is treating your entire internal experience, your thoughts, your fears, your anxieties, as raw weather patterns, allowing them to flow effortlessly down the river of your continuous sensory perception until the effort collapses into maypole.
It really is profound.
And you can actually test this mechanism for yourself today. The next time you feel a spike of anxiety about a conversation or a deadline, pause, ask yourself, am I interacting with the actual fire right now, or am I drowning in the reflection in the pond?
It is a radical shift in how a human being processes existence. I'll leave you with a final provocative question drawn from the mechanics of the text.
Yeah.
If your sensory reality truly is completely fresh and renewed every single millisecond, exactly like new water flowing down a riverbed, who would you be right now in this exact moment if you simply refuse to drag yesterday's water into today's stream?